flip side of that, in the commercial, they tell you all the hardships that come along with taking this particular drug or this particular medicine. And they oftentimes say that really quickly. And sometimes you miss them. They literally might speed up the word, okay? And so all of that is a part of how our tastes and desires are developed, is through marketing. There's a book called The Secret Sales Pitch, and it deals with how a lot of these marketing tools are developed. And so you'll see, for example, we saw like any fast food restaurant, I'm not going to call any out by name, fast food restaurant, and you see the commercial, and you see that burger, and you see that cheese just kind of perfectly rounded off on the edge, you see that mayonnaise, that ketchup, everything just looks, it's like good. And when you understand what's going on behind it, is that instead of using like mayonnaise, they use glue. Glue holds in place better. So they're literally sculpting this image, and a lot of it is not even real food. It's not what it's portraying itself to be. You know, there was a movie years ago called Falling Down with Michael Douglas, and he's having a bad day that day. And he ran into a fast food restaurant. He was bad. He had just got jumped by some gangbangers, and he stole all their weapons. So he had like a duffel bag full of like assault rifles and pistols and stuff. So he went to this fast food restaurant just to get some food. And they stopped breakfast at 11. And it was like 10:59. And they wouldn't serve him breakfast. So his bad day is compounding now. Here's the point. So then he ordered a burger off the menu. And the burger looked really good on the picture. And they gave it to him. It was just flat, little sandwich. Anyway, he got mad and drew down. He put out one of the guns and started, tripping in the restaurant. But it was just the difference between the imaging, the product imaging, and the actual product itself. What does that have to do with what we're talking about? And so the image that we're giving of some things is that it actually is food. In reality, it's not food at all. It's just chemicals that have been put together and combined to imitate food. Sure food, I sure will. So there's a book by Suzar, came out years ago, 90s, called Drugs Masquerading as Food.
Yeah.
Very, very good book, very, very insightful. Because it talks about how what we think is actually food is not. These are chemical compounds designed to imitate food. It's almost like you get like some candy, and the candy looks like a bunch of grapes, but it's not. It's a little piece of candy, but it's imitating a bunch of grapes, even the flavor of it.
Right.
That's all chemically combined. And so one way that you can decipher between whether or not what the drug to food ratio is and what you're eating is to read the ingredients list. And most of the time you won't be able to comprehend what's actually on that ingredient list. You read stuff and it's like 15 syllable words. It's like yellow dye number 9, and then they've got this catch-all category called natural flavors.
Right.
So natural flavors, you're going to say natural, what do you mean by natural flavors, right? I was watching, I don't know what show it was, but they talked about one of the raspberry natural flavors of raspberry. It's not real raspberry, but it's a natural flavor. It tastes like raspberry. So it actually comes from these glands inside the anus of, I think it was beavers. So they use a chemical that comes out of a beaver's anal gland to make one of these so-called natural flavors. Forgive me for not knowing specifically which one. I think it actually is the raspberry flavor. But anyway, so we got all these things that are happening around us, and we're talking about how can we be more healthy. And I say the number one step is to be aware of all the things that can be compromising our health. And one of the number one things is the psychology behind it. The influence, the psychological influence, our lack of knowledge, the degrees of ignorance that we might carry, and it's not our fault per se. Right. It takes a certain privilege to take the time to be able to study food.
Right.
Although it's probably the number one thing that we could be studying, aside from ourselves, understanding what we are as human beings, what are we consuming? Because that is literally what makes you, right? It's literally what builds your body. It's also what tears your body down. It feeds illness and it feeds health, right? And so it takes a privilege because, right, and this is part of the marketing for fast foods. That's why they call it fast food. You don't have to take your time preparing it, because we're always on the go, right? You're going from one job to the next, you're going from school to work, you're going from work to home, you got family at home. Who has time to do this stuff anymore? So now it's in function of convenience. Fast food. They call it fast because it is fast. You pull up, you get it typically. Even if the line is wrapped around the building, you can still relatively get it quicker than it will take you to prepare the food and cook it at home, right? So it's the convenience factor. But then the other part is that they're calling it food. And again, if you can see the ingredients list on some of these, you can see the levels of preservatives, You can see all the dyes and the chemicals that are actually treating the food. Then you have to question how much of this is actually food, right? But I say the number one thing is here in your mind. Right? The number one is in your mind. One of my teachers told me that all food should be two things: nutritive and cleansing. Like nutritive meaning providing nutrients to you. The nutrients is what your body needs to move. It's for fuel, for repairing itself, for growth and development. He says all food should be nutritive and cleansing. So the cleansing part is helping to remove waste from your body, and also not adding waste to your body. So you want food that's as efficient and effective as possible, meaning that when you consume it, the waste from it is easy to eliminate, and not only that, the waste from it itself is not toxic. Because you've got some things that you can ingest, and by ingesting it, it produces more toxicity. It produces toxicity in your body. And your body has to respond to what this food has now introduced to it in the form of a toxin. And so now it's being stressed and this resource is being tapped to what? Get rid of the toxic effect of the food that you consume. Then you've got other food, like an apple per se. You eat an apple. You eat the apple, the byproduct of that is going to be the fiber, that's in the apple. And the water that's in the apple. And the natural sugars that are in the apple. So when that breaks down, that's what you have. Your body now takes on those nutrients or the nutritive substances, takes it in, uses it as it needs to, and what it doesn't use passes out. That's why, if you got somebody that's constipated, you can blend up an apple, and they eat applesauce, because that's all it is, and the fiber helps to move their bowels. Those are good byproducts. Those are good effects of food. Those are the nutritive and cleansing effects of food. All foods, again, two things: nutritive and cleansing. It should provide high levels of nutrition and should be cleansing of your body. And we're going to talk about a few slides in, really towards the end, where I'm going to show you different foods that are good for different things. All right. And again, here's my disclaimer: I'm not a medical doctor, and I'm not a certified nutritionist. So information I'm sharing today is strictly for educational purposes. Do not attempt to apply anything that I've said without first consulting your licensed healthcare provider. That's my disclaimer, all right? So it's all information. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm not telling you not to do anything. My opinion, my perspective, check with your license folks before you do anything. That being said, these are your organ systems. Ancient ancestors, and specifically in Egypt, ancient Kemet, they understood the power of your organs, of your physical body. I don't have the scene in this particular presentation, but there's a scene on the wall, the judgment scene, where they have these, what they call the 4 sons of Heru. And each one is really a jar that contains certain organs after the person has died and become mummified. And they understood that these organs have served you throughout your entire life. And so they honored these organs, right? They said, wow, this is divine. Your heart is divine. Your heart wasn't in one of them. Your heart is divine. Your stomach is divine. Your liver is divine. Your digestive system is divine. We should honor these organs. Why? Because they helped you to live your entire life, right? They said this is more tangible than a whole lot of stuff that people worship, right? Give thanks for your liver for being like the filter in your body, right? Helping to produce healthy cholesterol, to collect, and produce vitamin D3, when you expose yourself to the sun. Those types of things, right? And so part of our issue, again, like I said before, is that we don't know these things anymore. We don't understand that food is what creates a healthy body. And when we get it, we have the information. Of course, we say, duh, when you hear that, but at the same time, the understanding of it is what we're missing. Because we don't even understand what we are as human beings, for real, right? And I think that's probably the most effective trick that's been played on us. It taught us like we were Superman and Superwoman, and they told us that we were just regular human beings, and that kryptonite was like the best thing to wear. And so now we're running around as Superman and Superwoman, but rocking kryptonite, meaning intentionally weakening ourselves by the things that we do and the things that we engage in. So you'll see that when we get to those later slides that we're going to talk about different foods that are good for the respiratory system, for the digestive system, circulatory system, nervous system, the skeletal muscular system, all of the urinary tract, the urogenital system, all of the different organ systems. We'll talk about foods that are good for each one of those, nutritionally as well as far as cleansing or detoxing. So here goes some more of that marketing. So what they do is they use popular culture to deliver the message to whoever that popular culture is popular with. And so when you see a lot of hip-hop artists or hip-hop artists or black athletes pushing certain substances, certain foods, certain ideologies, certain personalities, you know that they're targeting, or that advertisement is designed for us in it. Right? No question about it. And so when you see like Lil Yachty, throwing back this particular drink, and associated with one of his hit songs at the time, then you know what they're doing is they're trying to get the youth who listen to him to listen to him on this as well, and to begin to buy and consume whatever the product is that he's pushing. Right? Again, when you talk about nutritive and cleansing, you don't have that in this substance. The best you're going to get is probably the water that's in it, right? And that's probably minimal. If high levels of sugar in it, if I could break down the ingredients, we would see that the majority of it is not good for you. It's not going to be beneficial. It's not going to be nutritive, and it's not going to be cleansing. But this is the stuff that's going to be pushed. And not to mention, we got the liquor store, they should say gun store, right? Again, the same target. This is the corner of Baltimore. The same target, the same community. Nutritive, cleansing. Remember what it said on that food pyramid a few slides back about alcohol consumption? Mm-hmm. Limited quantities. I know some people who drink more alcoholic beverages than they do water. How many of y'all ever heard somebody say, I don't like water? I don't like water. Like, why don't you like water? It don't taste like nothing. So why don't you like it? If it don't taste like nothing, it shouldn't be a problem, right? But somewhere, somehow, on some level, right, it don't taste like nothing, so that's bad. Knowing dang well that when you drink water, when you're thirsty, it feels good. Anybody ever, you get up first thing in the morning, if you drink water, you can feel it going into your body, right? It's a really good, energizing feeling. But we've been, pushed away from it. Get up and get a cup of coffee first. Coffee is not necessarily a bad thing. That's one of those things of moderation, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can take the green coffee bean and you can use that for weight loss, right? You can use coffee as a stimulant. Some people take small quantities of microdoses of caffeine coffee and function at a level of consciousness, alertness, and awakeness throughout the day that's highly efficient and effective, right? But we're going to get our coffees and we got heavy, right? heavy cream, heavy sugar, right? And heavy caffeine. Give me more. We eat 8, 9, 10 cups a day, right? But we just got to be mindful of what we're doing. Another thing that's a major issue with the diet, food allergy. I heard somebody joking about it, but it was not really joking, but they were saying, what's up with the kids today and all these food allergies? And then think back a couple generations, either we just didn't know we had food allergies and we toughed it out, or we just really didn't have them.
And gluten is a thing too.
Man, that whole gluten thing, again, marketing, right? You got stuff that wouldn't have gluten in it, got gluten-free on the package now. Because they know that people are coming into the supermarket, into the grocery store looking for gluten-free items. And so now they find this doesn't have gluten. It's like it never did. Yeah, gluten-free apples. It's like, no joke. But it's a marketing play. They put it on there because they know that there's a particular diet that is gluten-free now, right? We got to be really mindful of that stuff. But yeah, so we have all type of food allergies. Our children have food allergies. Adults are starting to spring up food allergies. There's alcohol. And yes, allergies can come on later in life. But this stuff is something else. And I think, no research to back us up or anything like that, it's not an authority on the topic, but I think that it's some of the other stuff that's going into the foods. And in particular foods that might be treated with particular pesticides and other chemicals, and that's what our bodies are responding to. And because it's always on this particular type of food, they say it's an allergy to that food. And I can hear a general practitioner, well, actually, when we do the allergy tests, we do test for allergies in a certain way. It might bypass the presence of pesticides and stuff like that. But generally speaking, we are having negative reactions to stuff that I don't think is all food-based. And I think that some of it is being ascribed to foods. That's all I'm saying. But having knowledge of your food allergies, like you have nut allergy, soy allergy, seafood allergy, nut allergy again, or shellfish, eggs, meat, there, it's very important to know those things because some of these allergies, these allergic reactions could actually be deadly. It can be lethal. Some people who can literally swell up, their throat might close up on them, eyes swell up, all of that. So you have to be very knowledgeable about what food substances are good for you, which ones are very bad for you. It's a very important thing to know, especially with your children. One of the best things you can do is go as natural as possible. Go as natural as possible. But you see some things on here that are natural foods, you know, can still produce that outcome. So just be very mindful and aware of that. And we're going to go through these next few slides pretty quickly. These are just the different diet types. And I'm going to move us through that so that we can talk about the empowering part. So, y'all see all these different diets, right? Mm-hmm. The keto, the ketogenic, the Mediterranean diet, intermittent fasting, vegan diet, low carb, ultra low fat, Atkins, Duke, military, gout diet. You know, let's get that gout. There's some swell up on you. Give me that. You got the paleo diet. I told you the blood type diet, South Beach, raw food diet, flexitarian, mind diet, TLC diet, orange diet, fertility diet, macrobiotic diet. So in other words, you have a diet for anything. Hospitals. When you go into the hospital, God forbid, you have to spend some time there. They have special diets like I know somebody who just had a heart transplant, and he's on a heart healthy diet. And I know somebody who's been in there for diabetes for a certain period of time. They're on a diabetic diet. And my thought was like, well, wait a minute. Because, I mean, other than that, if you don't have a specialized diet, you're just getting what they bring you. And from what I've seen, or what they bring you is not necessarily nutritive nor cleansing. And I'm thinking you should be able to get healthy food anywhere. It should be in the hospital. Regardless of your ailment, every diet, you know, when it's just a general diet, you don't have to have heart regular restrictions or sugar restrictions. The diet should still reflect healthy heart diet and healthy sugar level diet. But for some reason it does not. You know, it just doesn't. And again, we have to ask, why is that the case? Is it the understanding of the people that develop the menus? But I'm thinking that there are nutritionists that are doing that stuff. I don't know.
I know when I had my stroke, I didn't eat food in the hospital because it was, in my opinion, it wasn't healthy. And the nutritionist would come to me and say, well, you didn't eat anything. I said, this food is not healthy.
The nutritionist is pushing it.
Yes.
They was trying to feed her mac and cheese and fried chicken.
After a stroke.
After a stroke.
Yeah.
So that sounds like high cholesterol to me.
Yes. They wanted me to have a heart attack, I guess.
Right after the stroke, right? Wow. But see, that's the thing. So you would think that that's where you should be able to go and get what you need, because that's where all the experts are. So again, we got to take control of this stuff as much as we possibly can. You know, you have to advocate for yourself, because they said you didn't eat anything. The answer was, no, I didn't eat what y'all brought me here. You know, I happen to have some kids that know better.
Yeah.
Right. And they're taking care of it. You know, I've had to do that. You know, smuggle Ethiopian food and stuff in the hospital with my yellow. We're going to eat it.
Exactly.
One of the number one culprits to the health issues that we're finding today in America is the standard American diet, also known as the SAD diet, S-A-D. Standard American diet. Check this out. Now, this is a breakdown. Processed food make up close to 70% of the U.S. diet. Processed food, meaning usually the packaged food. Food that comes to you in a state other than how it originates. So stuff you find in boxes, plastic bags, stuff like that. Americans spend 10% of their disposable income on fast food. The average American consumes 130 pounds of sugar every year. That's a lot of sugar. That's a whole lot of sugar. And sugar is sneaky. Sugar slide in under a bunch of different names, right? So if you look on the ingredients list, most of the stuff, anything in it, OSE, so you get glucose, sucrose, fructose, high fructose, corn syrup, rice syrup, anything like that, those are sugars. Right? 130 pounds. More than 1/3 of U.S. adults are considered to be obese. In the early 2000s, 60% of all middle school and high schoolers sold soft drinks and vending machines. That was one of the things that First Lady Michelle Obama was pushing for, was to remove certain items from vending machines in schools, because she understood the negative impact it was having on children. And one of the things, again, going back to that marketing piece, if you are pushing a particular product, you want people to start using your product as early as possible. Mm. So then you got the longevity. You want a customer for 50 years rather than a customer for only 20 years. So if I could catch you coming out the crib and make Coca-Cola or some cola drink, your favorite drink, at 3, I got you for the rest of your life, right? And then there are other people that might be on the sidelines banking on that too, like, oh shoot. So if you start drinking it, the average person might drink this many bottles in a day. So if I can get you at 3 years old drinking this many bottles in a week, then I know it's going to have these health effects in your body. Oh man, I'm going to be cleaning up on the insulin side of things. Because you're likely to end up diabetic. Dentistry, oh yeah, them teeth going to be done in about, you know what I mean? Then they start pushing veneers and stuff like that. This ain't that conversation, but you know, we got all these different industries that benefit off of us either not being able to make great food choices and healthy choices for our lifestyles, or us choosing not to. There are other industries that sit in the flank. They're like, heck yeah, keep pushing that, because I'm gonna see you in a little while. One of those industries, I think, chiropractors. I haven't talked to a chiropractor. I know a couple. You know, y'all see a lot of people sitting around like this, neck bent down and hunched over. And I think that chiropractors are going to see an uptick in some whatever condition it might be that has to deal with the neck being crooked like this. I just think we'll have an increase in that. Not only that, but then our ear specialists, because we walk around with ear pods and earbuds stuck in our ears all day, every day now, and having loud sounds pumped directly into our ear canal, they're going to start seeing a deterioration in our ability to hear.
Right.
And so, again, all of this stuff is interrelated. All of it is interconnected. I go right back to this again. If we don't know, we're more susceptible to all of it. The more you do know, then the more armed you are, more prepared you can be to resist these things. I know one thing I was doing with my kids growing up. Anytime I saw product placement in a TV show or movie, I would point it out. Say, y'all see that commercial? Commercial, it's a movie, it's a commercial. The fact that they showed you what brand of computer that was, that's a commercial. The fact that you saw the label on that drink, you notice sometimes they sit the bottle down and you don't know, you can't see the label, but other bottles they sit down and you can see the label. I said, that's a commercial. And so then you're just increasing that awareness piece again. So now they see commercials in product placement. Your awareness makes you less susceptible to the subtle influences of it. Right? And that's what you want to get, right? Because again, you want to shift your understanding and your perspective of consumption. And to do that, you have to recognize when you're consuming, what you're consuming, and why you're consuming it. You want as much as what you consume to be as nutritional as possible and as cleansing as possible. And that goes beyond food. Y'all still with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's start with the carnivore diet. These are the word-heavy slides. Only eat animal-based products: meat, cheese, milk, animal-based fats, and eggs. Some people say that they don't do any eggs or dairy eating. With that, no grains, no vegetables, and no fruit. That's a go-hard diet. Nothing but meat. It's a variation of the keto diet, since it's fat and proteins prioritized over carbs. So this one there aren't any carbs. Followers have claimed it can fight inflammation and prevent nutrient deficiencies. There are certain nutrients that they will get a lot of, like iron. Because if you get iron is high in red meat. This is a real diet. People only eat meat. And there is proof that it leads to weight loss. Again, you're getting meat. If it's fat trimmed meat, there's no carbs. And so you're literally going to be burning just off the fat. It's high protein diet. Scientific consensus, though, is that this diet may lead to an increased risk of heart disease, cancer, and overall risk of death. Because there are no fruits and vegetables in it. It's like one of those things you put that in the Dove file, right? It's like, yeah. So it might increase cholesterol, blood pressure, and the risk of digestive issue like colon cancer and things of that nature. Then you got the ketogenic diet. The diet that prioritizes fat. 65 to 75% of your daily consumption is fat with this diet, of your daily calories. Moderate protein, which is 20 to 30%, and very few carbs, only about 5%, some prohibited altogether. So people consume a lot of avocados, eggs, and buntless burgers. So, you might eat like a lunch meat sandwich or something. You do it without the bread now, because you're not eating any carbs. Minimize carb intake. It's designed to keep the body in near constant state of ketosis, which is a metabolic state where the body creates ketones from fat to use as energy instead of sugar from carbs. So in other words, it takes the fat that exists in your body and it breaks those down for the fuel of your body. And because you don't have any carbs, because typically your body prefers carbs and breaking those sugars to run itself. But if you don't have that, then the next thing it goes to is the fat. And so this type of diet encourages the body to burn the fat, which is why it contributes to weight loss. There have been also claims that it may help treat cancer and even respiratory illnesses. It's no more effective for weight loss when calories are matched with other diets. A study said that. Then we got this paleo diet, also called the caveman diet. It's the cousin of the carnivore diet. So in addition to the meats, you also eat fish, vegetables, fruit, nuts, and seeds. You avoid any grains, dairy, processed food, beans, legumes, and sugars, other than the natural sugars that you get from the fruits and vegetables. It's effective in helping people lose weight, drop their blood pressure, and improve other blood markers. It warns against, people warn against the diet's exclusion of whole grains, which have been shown to ward off heart disease and diabetes. Again, so all of these diets, a lot of them seem to be quite extreme because it goes very far and very fast in one direction, right? Although there are health benefits to most of them, a holistic approach is going to be your best approach to anything, right? You see what works for you. You see how things interact with you and your body, right? You get with your medical specialist, your licensed medical practitioner, and you see what your body needs. Because we all may or may not have certain deficiencies, and it's likely that we all do, just based on the environment. Certain environments, like stressful environments, might deplete certain resources in your body quicker than other environments would. Certain diets that are heavy in this particular type of food might give you an abundance of this particular vitamin and mineral, but then it might be lacking in this other vitamin and mineral, right?
Correct.
So it's good to just really understand what's necessary for my body to be in a balanced state and a healthy state, and then go into that. You want it to be as nutritional as possible and as cleansing as possible, producing as little toxic waste as possible as a byproduct, right? Then we got this Mediterranean diet. Food, Mediterranean food. That's talking about falafels and hummus and tabbouleh and all that stuff. I smash the Mediterranean food, but it's good for you, right? And they got studies that prove that the Mediterranean diet, people in the Mediterranean region typically have a longer life expectancy, right? But it's, so you got countries like Greece, Italy, Spain, Lebanon, Turkey, Northeast Africa, Northern Africa. Longest life expectancy, rich in heart-healthy foods such as vegetables, fish, fruit, grain, olive oil, and nuts. Consumption of red meat is kept to a minimum, and dairy intake is moderated, but it's high quality when it is consumed. So, you got your goats and stuff right there. They like a bunch of mass-producing cows, mass-producing milk, mass-producing goats, mass-producing milk. It's more localized, right? And therefore, you control more what the animals are consuming that you're getting your food products from, right? So the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that not only did the Mediterranean diet lead to weight loss, but it was also the easiest for people to adhere to when compared to intermittent fasting and the paleo diet. It's easier to get, it tastes good. And so when you got food that tastes good for you, food that's actually filling, and it makes you feel good, right? You feel full and you feel good afterwards. It's easier to stick to that than something that's like, begrudging. It's like, man, I can't eat nothing but, I don't know, fish sandwiches for the rest of my life. Some people are like, hey, some people are like, hey, I eat fish sandwiches for the rest of my life. But some of these diets can be so restrictive and so limiting and even bland. But this Mediterranean diet, you got all type of flavor in it. Like I said, I love Mediterranean food. Even as a vegan, I love Mediterranean food. So when adhered to, the diet has also been found to reverse symptoms of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. This is an example of your food being nutritive. Because high-quality nutrition does help to address symptoms and even the disease itself, right? Helps alleviate all that stuff. People in the Mediterranean, so this is like a word of caution. They say, it ain't just a diet. These folks have a healthier lifestyle anyway, is what they try to say. Typically, they smoke less, they're less sedentary, and they move around more, they do less alcohol drinking, they have better sleeping habits. And so, understanding how sleep impacts, our overall health is also important. How many of y'all know somebody, nobody here of course, know somebody get up and get a midnight snack? Just got that mouth at night. Just get up and just got to eat something, and you eat something heavy, and you go to sleep on it. And then you toss it and turn it, and now you got the bubble guts all night. Nobody here, y'all know nobody. It's cool.
I used to know somebody.
Yeah, we all. Right, somebody I used to know. Right. So let's look at the vegan diet real quick. I just picked something to go over. And so vegan is like vegetarian, but next step beyond vegetarian. So vegetarian diet is not eating any animals, right? You don't eat any meat. But a vegetarian can still have meat products like butter, like dairy, eggs, stuff like that. And they claim that some vegetarians can even eat fish, but fish ain't, it's not a vegetable, it's fish. So some call that, I think that's called pescatarian diet or something like that. Some people eat are vegetarian but also eat fish, right? So some people do it that way, and again, they're getting the omega-3, 6s, and 9s, which is something that people say vegetarians and vegans are lacking or at risk of having a deficiency in because they don't partake in fish, right? So some people add fish to the diet, to the vegetarian diet. Some people add dairy, they add like eggs. Some people cut out eggs as a vegetarian. But the vegan diet is strictly plant-based. And unfortunately, a lot of people who quote-unquote are vegan eat a whole lot of processed foods, right? And remember that processed food slide we talked about earlier, processed food are chemically laced. I mean, there's a lot of chemicals in processed food. It takes a lot of chemicals to process the food, right? And so you're looking at a lot of preservatives, looking at a lot of things that have altered the food. Nowadays we have a lot of meat substitutes, right? So, you know, some cultures as a vegan, like a Rasta, if you're a Rastafari vegan in the Caribbean, you eat high tal every day, you know, unless you got the little chunks, the fake meat chunks. Most of your food is just what it is. It's a plant, you don't eat, you know, cook up the plant, you might warm it up, you might eat it raw, right? But so it's a difference in how a lot of us are doing vegan now. You got a lot of this processed food, and people say that the processed food ain't no good for you, right? Especially the meat substitutes and things of that nature, right? So you got to be very mindful if you attempt to go this way. And sometimes people that go and become vegetarian, but they have that psychological connection with meat still. And they're like,
Right.
so give me the fake meat so I can trick myself into thinking I'm still eating meat, right? And I think it was Dr. Africa, Laila Africa, my good friend and mentor, his ancestor now. He talked about how you wouldn't eat meat if you didn't try to make it taste like a vegetable. So like all the seasoning and stuff that you put on meat, you know, are vegetables and herbs and things of that nature. So you take the meat substance and you make it taste like a vegetable. But I think part of what we need is to understand how to prepare vegan and vegetarian food that's not only healthy, nutritive and cleansing, but that's filling as well, right? Because you can make a so-called meatloaf out of lentils. You know, it tastes good in the mud. You know, and so there's ways to do it, and it's just as filling, right? You get your lentil loaf, same mashed potatoes, and get you some spinach. You got the same meal right there in front of you. You know, minus the potentially adverse effects of the ground beef. Yes, ma'am.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you have any recommendations? Because that's my problem. The need for that texture of the meat. Not necessarily the meat itself, it's the texture. And I know that I've had seitan before, and that helped, but that's a lot of work.
It's that work part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's going to be work. Because what you're doing is it's kind of like, somebody once told me anything worthwhile is you're gonna have to work for it. You have to put in that work, and the results far outweigh what you have to do to get to it, right? And so part of that, again, we have to shift our mind and say, I know this is just a mental thing that makes me say I need that texture, right? But in the meantime, you could easily just do a Google search, right? And say, how can I make vegetarian meatloaf? And you'll get 20 different recipes on how to make a vegetarian meatloaf.
Okay.
And what I do is, I'll look at whatever they have that's substituting for meat. You know, like if it's lentils or if it's a spot up in DC, so vegetarian, they used to make a wheat loaf. We call it wheat loaf. They made it out of gluten. And so I look at whatever the meat substitute is, and then I would do the same seasoning that I would as if it was meat. So I don't have to follow all their seasoning protocol. I'm going to season it like I want it to taste.
Okay.
I'm just looking for what they use for substitution, like egg substitute. You can use like flaxseed, like flax meal. You know, heat up some water, pour it over the flax meal with grounded up flax seeds, and it gives you that similar consistency of a raw egg. And you put that in your food, right? Any recipe that calls for egg, now you just use flax meal, right?
Okay.
If you're still in the processed side, you go and get some of that egg substitute stuff. I'm not gonna get no product name. I'm trying to avoid saying specific products.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get no free advertising. They got multi-billion-dollar budgets for advertising. I ain't getting free. So if I do say something, I slipped. But they got like the egg substitute now, right? And you know, I sometimes would use that if I'm having flax meal and I got some of that. So there's different ways that you can do it. It's gonna take you to be creative, and you're gonna have to reverse the conditioning of the convenience of fast food.
Right.
Because we've been conditioned to expect it. I mean, even more so now, like, we got kids who can look up something in a couple of seconds where we would have to wait to go to a library or wait to call somebody. It's at the tips of our fingers now. What that does is speeds up our time from question to answer. It decreases the time from question to answer. And decreasing that time from question to answer, it also decreases our patience. Because now we expect that same type of turnaround from everything, and every inquiry we have. And so now it also now leaves us open to the hustle. Because people now understand, oh yeah, they're going to answer real quick. So let me be the first one to pop up with a response. Let my ad be the first one at the top of the search now. Let me pay extra dollars because they want it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Right. It's not likely they're going to scroll down the page. So I want to be the first thing you see. So now you're buying my product as an answer to whatever question that brought you to this page in the first place. It's all connected. We don't have that holistic understanding, we're likely to fall off some. But I say just take the steps in those directions, Google search it, see what's out there, start reading recipes. My mom, she just sent me a picture of a vegan cookbook she just got. She ordered it way back in January. It's the sister that has that restaurant, the Sluggy Vegan. We'll shout her out. She had to cook a recipe book. My mom finally got it. She ordered it in January. She's excited about it. She told me the other day, she said, I haven't had any restaurant food in 2 weeks. It's just her taking whatever small step you take it when you take it.
Right. Okay.
Just doing it. That's the important part, is that you're doing it, and that's the direction that you're headed in, right? And that's your intention. I have set as an intention to eat better. Now, I don't care if I'm still eating a bunch of trash that I used to eat. Now, guess what? I done took that one trash item out of my basket now. So I'm doing better now. Even though I still get all this other trash, I don't do that one anymore. And my intention is to get rid of all of this eventually. Right? Headed in that direction, you're headed in a good one. And you're headed toward a good place.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Of course, I say you're going to do it expeditiously. My TI works. So vegans have 25% lower risk of heart disease and 8% lower risk of cancer than those who ate animal products. At a higher risk of being deficient on vitamins and minerals, such as iron, zinc, vitamin D, calcium, and omega-3 fatty acids. And so again, if you're going to go vegan, it's very important to have proper supplementation and to understand what foods are high in what minerals and vitamins. Because you can find a natural food that's got a lot of iron in it, like blackstrap molasses. You make smoothies, pour some blackstrap molasses off in there, You go really hard, just take you a couple of tablespoons of blackstrap molasses without anything in it. Me and my grandmama, we used to take biscuits, she called them biscuits, and we used to take like almond syrup and butter, just mash it up in a bowl, and then we take our biscuits and dip it in it, I'm assuming alligator was a type of molasses, maybe a fake kind, but it might, whatever, it was rich in iron, right? So there's different ways to supplement. Vitamin D, especially vitamin D3, from what I hear, is the kind that you want. And that's the kind that your body naturally produces. But then there's supplements. Real little, like little teardrop gel caps, 5,000 micrograms of vitamin D3 in it, so it's very easy to supplement at the same time, but it can also be very expensive. And we're talking about the barriers in a little while. So people in the Mediterranean have better lifestyle. Okay, I'm sorry. I duplicated that last. I forgot to delete that from the previous slide. Forgive me for that. So then we got this other diet. It sounds like a really fun diet, right? Dessert with breakfast diet. They're like, oh yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I've been waiting on. The kids like, I told you. Right. The continental breakfast, right?
Yep.
And so somebody somewhere, I didn't even think about that when I first came across the diet. That's the continental diet, right? I always wondered, because it is like that. You go to conferences and in the morning for the first session of the breakfast they might provide, you're gonna get coffee, orange juice. You might get the bacon and eggs and stuff, with some oatmeal. But then there's always the donuts and stuff. The Danishes, the donuts, bagels. But it's a sugary treat first thing in the morning. It's almost like a pep start. People who ate high carb, high protein meal that included the dessert lost more weight and kept it off for the duration of an 8-month study than those who had low carb, high protein breakfast. And so that's part of the reason behind it, part of the thought behind that outcome is that you satisfy that desire for a sweet, rather than the person having that ongoing and feeling like they have to sneak and get a treat, and then you end up snacking throughout the day, as opposed to you get it out the way early. I've got my sweet tooth satisfied, boom, I'm good to go. That's part of that's what one of the thoughts about why the outcome came out like it did. You gotta be mindful of the potential spike of blood sugar, especially for those who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, and it can increase the desire to snack on other sweet foods. The primer effect. You get primed, and then you want more. Sugar is very addictive. Fun part. Intermittent fasting. So we're talking about fasting beyond intermittent, but this is considered to be, some say it's a diet, others say it's just an eating strategy. But intermittent fasting means that you eat for a certain window of time throughout the day, and then you fast for the rest of the day. So, you know, there are some set ratios. People say, oh, I fast for 16 hours a day, and I eat for 8 hours. And it basically means that you don't consume calories during your fasting period. There are plenty of things that you can consume that don't have calories in it, right? But you just make sure that your caloric intake is 0 during your fasting period, right? Y'all with me?
Yes.
And so it's an 8-hour block of time that I can't eat. So let's say my 8-hour block of time is between noon and 8 p.m. every day. That means between noon and 8 p.m., I'm eating. Depending on how rigid you want to be with it, some people will only sit down for one meal somewhere within that window, and that'll be it. And then they might have something like a smoothie or something throughout, or some snacks, but that's the only window that they're consuming anything with calories. And then for the rest of the 16 hours, they're not touching it. And that sounds like, oh, that's kind of hard. But if you think about it, you're sleeping hopefully for at least 8 of those hours. So that's half of it gone right there. So now you're only battling for another 8 hours until you get to your eating window. Now, the person that introduced it to me, Dr. Noon Amin Rock, that brother, he's so intense. I'll show y'all him in a minute. This dude's so intense. He eats for 1 hour a day. So his ratio is 1 to 23. So he's fasting 23 hours in a day, and he eats for 1 hour. And now what he does is he takes supplements. You know, he makes his own, what he calls elixirs, where he puts together amino acids to make sure he's getting all his proteins. He puts together a vitamin and mineral regimen, so he's making sure he's getting all the nutrition that he needs. And then he eats 1 hour a day. And when I last spoke to him about it, the hour that he ate was midnight, from midnight to 1 in the morning.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so he says he chose that hour basically because all the other times during the day is his waking time. He doesn't want to waste any of his time prepping food or eating or, you know, imbibing. He don't, because this dude is so serious. Like,
Yeah.
when I first met him in person, he was literally handwriting, you know, Egyptian hieroglyphs. He was writing like he wasn't just like practicing. He was like writing something, like, but he was writing it in the metric. And so, you know, it wasn't intense. He's also, last I checked, he was the deadlift record holder in the state of Maryland. He's totally vegan, by the way. Deadlift champion. I'll show you. The dude is like super diesel. Eats 1 hour a day.
Wow.
Intermittent fasting. That's who first introduced it to me. So there's several studies that found that it not only results in weight loss, not only results in weight loss, but can help improve insulin resistance, reduce oxidative stress on your cells, stabilize blood sugar levels, and reduce the risk of strokes. Now, part of it is because it's giving your body a rest. Because, you know, every time you eat something, your body has to work to digest it. Your body has to work not only to break the food down, but then to distribute the food. And not only distribute the food, but then take the waste product from the food and work to eliminate it from your body. So that's work on your body. So when you're intermittently fasting, you give your body a dedicated window to not be processing food, right? Or at least not ingesting and breaking it down anymore. It gives it more time to process it. Actually, it gives time to collect more waste and get waste out the body. Because if you ever had a garbage can and the kids keep putting stuff on top of it, keep piling it up, and it'll never get taken out, and by the time it's spilling over on the floor, it's the same with your body. Constantly putting stuff in there, you know, it starts to backlog the waste removal process. Especially if the food is not good. Especially if it's some trash for real. Now you're putting trash on top of trash on top of trash. Now your body has to work extra hard to not only get rid of the trash, but then to address all of the negative effects of introducing the trash in the first place, right? So the intermittent fasting, it helps you out because it allows your body to rest. It allows your body to cycle out. It gives your body a chance to tend to other things except for consuming the food, right? Well, it makes sense. And I've done it. I do it now. I'm not doing that whole, I don't go as hard as Dr. Amin, for sure. But I typically eat once a day. And when I eat. Let me see if I can figure this is going to happen. Let me see if I can, I'm going to have to exit out the PowerPoint somehow. So I got to see this. I'm just going to his website real quick. Sometimes when you hook up the computer to a projector, trips. So this is Dr. Amin.
Wow. Come on.
Woo, he's buff. Boom, yeah.
Didn't he come to Fisk University and did a workshop?
No, I didn't bring
When
him.
we was, okay.
I am.
Wow.
Yeah, so this dude is, like I said, he's a powerlift or a deadlift champion. This is actually where I found him in the library. He's got like a straight edge, it's like a square. He's drawing his line straight. It's probably like maybe an extra now. That's the weight, like a paper weight that he uses. 1 hour a day. Yeah. He's got so many books. He's a panologist. Studies death. So he's got what he calls Allergies age inhibition regimen, where it talks about all the different nutrients, supplements and stuff that you take to reduce aging, to slow down aging, and reverse aging.
Like the reverse part.
Right? It's not a joke. It's not. You see how serious dude looks? That's how serious he is.
So you actually met him in person?
Yeah. Yep. He actually graduated from Morgan, and he went to Morgan. And last I checked, he was still working. Let's see. Check this out real quick. Yeah, that had to be fine.
I bet he was 95.
So I was Suzanne, you know me. I joke. I don't care how serious you are. So I asked him. I was like, I told him the joke just to see if he would laugh. You know, I was like, dude, you're like an android, bro. I was like, you're actually a real person. Like, so he was talking about the teas that he drinks or whatever. I was like, all right, so when you sip the tea, put your pinky up and you chuckle. I was like, all right, cool. I was just a test to make sure he was real, dude. He did laugh. That was cool. But I did ask him how old he was. You know, I forgot what he said. He might be 100. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember how old Doc is.
Wow.
But it ain't like he's like 80 or 90 or nothing like that. He's maybe 84. I don't know. I don't want to misspeak. But yeah, so this is intermittent fasting.
Wow.
And he has the science that backs it up. So a lot of people who want to establish themselves as experts in intermittent fasting, they have to somehow come past him. In a way, either they come at 50 Cent and try to diss him and try to say how Hitler's to this or whatever, but he's got the science. This dude writes books on it. And I mean, like I say, he's got 23 hours in a day that he focuses on doing the work. He get a very holistic approach. And you know, I ain't seen nothing wrong with it. His elixirs and everything are dope. That's where he's like a model. He act like he ain't, but I think he's a model. That's a joke. Dr. BC is, I'm joking, man. Let me see if I can find his power. Well, look, just look him up on YouTube. His YouTube channel is full of, he do these things where he like increases the weight and he goes and does like a deadlift. And so he'll like sit there, he's meditating at first. And he'll get up, you know, the plates are already on the bar, and he'll get up and he'll do it, drop it, and then go back and sit down. And he's going up the weight every time he does it.
Got it.
You got it, you see?
Yes.
Yeah. It's no joke. But intermittent fasting, I showed him because he's the one who introduced me to it, and that's what he does. Totally vegan. Totally vegan.
And it goes to show that you don't have to eat meat to be a bodybuilder.
Not at all. I mean, when you think about the animal kingdom, you know, big old silverback gorillas are pretty much vegetarians. You know, they eat an animal, but it's usually, you know, in war.
That's true.
But their typical diet is, you know, they're vegetarians. They're not vegan. Big old giraffes, vegetarians. Elephants, vegetarians. Much, and they're solid. You know what I mean? These aren't sloppy animals. So yeah, so it shows you that what we do when we consume animals, we've almost put a middle person in. Like we put a middle thing in. So like we're eating animals that eat the vegetables, right? And so when we can just skip them, we eat the vegetables because our bodies are designed to digest the vegetables the same way. So then keep eating meat if you want to. I'm not here to say that. But just at least increase the nutrition that comes with your size. So let's look at a couple of models for intermittent fasting. So this is something that you can do. So you can schedule your day, right? So you got midnight. You know, usually you're going to be sleeping around midnight, so you don't have to worry about that. And so let's say you go to midnight to 8 in the morning, wake up with water, coffee or whatever. Black coffee doesn't have calories probably. Right? So this is just a tip. You wake up, you're not consuming any calories. But maybe let's say you decide to consume the calories from 12 to 8, but example I just gave, right? So then you eat whatever you're gonna eat within that window. Then from 8 to midnight, you up, you're doing whatever you're doing, then you go to bed at midnight. Boom. Start over the next day. So that's one way. This is just a template. This is where they start talking about how do you divide your time? Because if you're like intentionally not eating for a window of time, you're gonna what? Feel hungry all the time. Right. It's a psychological thing. Oh man, I can't wait for 8 o'clock to get here, right? You psychologically you psych yourself up, right? And so you keep yourself busy. You stay occupied. You do things that matter. Because when you deep into some work, when you deep into doing something that you love doing, time go by so fast, right? And so that's a part of it. You want to keep yourself occupied. You want to make sure that you're focused on something that's beneficial. Because again, consumption is not just about food. It's also about everything else that you're bringing into your body. Whether you're talking about sounds that you're bringing in through your ears, smells you're bringing in through your nose, taste you're bringing in through your mouth, sight through your eyes, whatever it is, right? Touch from your skin, whatever it is, you want it to be as beneficial to you as possible, right? As healing to you as possible. So let's talk about some of these barriers to a healthy diet. What would y'all say is the number one barrier to a healthy diet?
And these days?
Yeah.
Other than finance?
Finance could be one, for sure.
Yeah, I think finance and just having the knowledge. But money is real because, in the community, a lot of people don't have the funds to actually eat healthy because it's expensive. We don't have farms to grow our own food or have our own cattle, so it's very, like you said, the convenience. It's very convenient to be on the go. Right. You know what I mean? So I think that's the main thing.
Finance. Yeah, it costs. Ain't it crazy, that an apple costs so much? It costs so much more than what you go on somebody's 99-cent menu and get, maybe one or two things, then you might get an apple and a half, right? But the apple itself requires less processing to be what it is than whatever that other stuff that they're making cheap, right?
Right.
What else? The money, definitely a barrier. I agree with that for sure. What else? Another barrier.
You pointed it out. Mostly is our psychology, thought processes.
Thought process. That's two goody mob references. They got a song called Thought Process. And then when you talk about it being cheap, CeeLo, he says, they think they slick, trying to make this bullshit affordable.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, that's goody mob. I'm good about that.
And then the organic food too, like we go to Kroger, we don't know that this is a processed apple or processed grape, like seedless grapes. Ain't no such thing as seedless grapes.
Should be.
Seedless apples. But we don't have the information to know, like, oh, it's just an apple, it's just a grape. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's way cheaper than the organic fruit.
And so you got to pay more to get the healthier version of the health food.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so it was pesticide free, hopefully. But now they start massaging these definitions to where even an organic label can still have a certain level of pesticide on it. It's just, it's just like with the FDA. For example, I think Dr. Africa, he said that there's a certain amount of pus and blood that's allowed to get through in the filtering of milk, so they expect some of it to be there. Right. The pus and blood because, there's cows, the rudders are hooked up to the machine or whatever, and it gets raw, it gets, shade. Like you did like this on your hand all day, even if you put some Vaseline on there, it's still going to rub off eventually. Right. So they said some of those contaminants, they get through the filtering process and you're allowed to sell it with a certain percentage. So it's an expectation that something's going to be there, right? And so I think it's the same when it comes to the percentage of pesticides and the type of pesticide that might be able to use and still receive that designation of organic. And then there's one other thing real quick on your point. So you go into the grocery store and you see a health food section, right? So you guys say, well, what is the rest of this food? If this is the health food section, then what is the rest of this food about? Questions that need answers. Yes, ma'am.
Emotions.
Talk to me. What do you mean?
Barriers. Mm-hmm. To eat healthy food. Your emotions. Because you might be emotionally attacked, like we talked earlier about the meat texture. You might be emotionally attacked. Because I know, for me, I'm emotionally satisfied with texture. I'm a texture person. And so since they got a hook since childhood, it's like that's a battle for me, that texture, emotionally.
Yep, so another piece on that emotional tip, emotional eating. And there's such thing as emotional eating, when people are sad with comfort food. And not only that, but we're also emotionally attached to certain types of food because of family bonds, right? I mean, what we got coming up this week?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
The most unhealthy thing.
Right. Man, I remember back in there, we used to brag like, well, I'm stuffed. You know, we said, I'm about to go back there, get another one though. You know, like, that's the goal, right? Is to stuff this in with as much as possible, right? It's amazing to me how, and when I was thinking about that a few years back, I'm looking at how like the sequence of events. So we got the fall equinox that happened September 21st. And then after that, you got Halloween. And so the fall equinox, you know, is a time of the year when you should be focusing in on reaping harvest that you sowed the year before. And so then you got, right after that, you know, so you got you reaping, and then you got Halloween to come in, and it whets your appetite, right, with the candy. It starts to prime you. From when you were a kid. When you were a kid, it starts to prime you. And so it's like, all right, so candy, you know, sweet, sugar, and you're going out bumming the food. You know, you got to go asking people, strangers, for stuff that's what? Not nutritive and not cleansing. In fact, it's empty calories, it's no good for you, right? And it's oftentimes toxic chemicals, greatest candy, right? Excessive amounts of sugar. So when you get that on Halloween, and then the very next holiday is Thanksgiving, right? So now you got your appetizer at Halloween. Now a month later, less than a month later, now you're in Thanksgiving, where they come up being gluttonous. What do they eat you with the very next day? Black Friday, right? So now you're getting primed for consumption. So you start with the appetite, you start with the reaping on your harvest, the fall equinox. Then you get the appetite with all the candy and junk food for Halloween. Then you get gluttonous on Thanksgiving. You eat as much as you can. It'll be some good food, folks and fun, you got your family, it's a good time. The very next day, drain your pockets. Come and consume. Consume more. Consume mass quantities, right? You go out there, you spend, you get yourself in debt for the whole next year. That's the day after Thanksgiving. Then you hit Christmas time. People feel bad, you know, not being able to get certain things for kids. You get guilt tripped and all that other stuff. So you do everything you can to make sure you satisfy other people through consumptions. There are many, many stores and companies that make back their budget for the entire year. They make their profit for the year on Black Friday, between Black Friday and Christmas, right? They're getting the black and they're staying the black because of that shopping period. The rest of the year can be icing on the cake for a lot of people, right? And so then, here's the other kicker on that. This is a little bit beyond what our topic is today. But then, you got the next solstice that's there, which is the winter solstice, which is actually the New Year's, as far as, you know, the time to make your New Year's resolutions. We're told, what do you do for New Year's, y'all? Drink, get split. We bring in the New Year full, right? But what else? What are we supposed to do?
New Year's resolutions.
New Year's resolutions, right? And so we do that, and we also, what do we eat for New Year's to bring us what? Nothing.
Chitlins and black-eyed peas.
Chitlins, I know. Chitlins.
Black-eyed peas.
Black-eyed peas for sure, right?
Listen, let's do chitlins.
I thought that red bucket stayed in That's an emotional attachment, though, right?
Yes, emotional attachment.
You expect for the house to smell like chitlins, right? During the Thanksgiving period, you use the cinnamon and the nutmeg in the air from sweet potatoes, right? The turkey, most frying turkey now, you know, people get together, stand out there. So all this stuff, that's the emotional attachment still. But we got a New Year's resolution, right? And so if the best time to do your resolution is during the winter solstice. You know, that's just what that is. And so now, we are a good 7 days off. We're a good week late trying to do it on New Year's Eve. We should have been doing it during the winter solstice, 21st through the 24th. Right? And so now that's why New Year's resolutions don't work for people. They miss the window of opportunity where you really could have been doing it. So instead of sowing seeds for your own benefit, during that window of time, you're consuming. You're buying big time. So that's the seeds that you've sown for yourself for the next year. And if people are buying with credit cards, or if they're buying with taking loans and stuff out to buy stuff, now what they've done is they set themselves up to be in debt in perpetuity, right? Throughout the whole next year, they repeat the cycle again and again. So that's the thing about consumption, and being aware of what we're consuming, how we're consuming it, why we're consuming it, who made you want to do those things, right? So all that was beyond the scope. But those are real barriers to healthy eating, right? Because then it impacts you for the next year. You got to eat cheap. Why? Because you got to pay all these bills. You know, and then it's post-COVID era, everything's more expensive now, right? You know, there was some movie, it said you never let a good never let a good, maybe a catastrophe or something like that go on. What is it? Anyway, they was just saying you don't let a catastrophe come that you don't take advantage of.
Right.
Right? So you get a reason now to raise prices on stuff, to cut people's jobs, to do all kinds of stuff. Yes.
And the fact that fast food is cheaper than healthy food.
Right.
Is because now I'm noticing on the videos on social media, all these fast food restaurant commercials, it's being pushed.
They come in for war.
Yeah.
They get the rappers, they put it in your face. You better come over here and get
Come eat this, right? They got fake beef between restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Right. I was passing through the airport at the Skyline Chili, Gold Star, one of them chili spots was in the airport, and they had the little cow that from the other restaurant, you know, wanted to eat more chicken.
Mm-hmm.
So the cow said eat more chili, so they had jacked it for the eat more chicken people. They took the cow because the eat more chicken people had just opened next door to them. So they took one of their little cows and put eat more chili on it just to kind of battle with them. But it's like these fake beefs, and they make it cheaper, so that it's like a no-brainer. It's like, shoot, I can feed my whole family, you know, with one of these buckets. You know, I'm spending about $10 for this whole bucket. That same $10 going into the grocery store, what I'm gonna get?
I think it's all a setup for the Western medicine to get you on these prescriptions for the rest of your life. These pharmaceutical companies, they all in cahoots, I think. They listen. If we get this guy sick, they gonna get on this medicine for the rest of his life. We got him.
Remember I told you, folks salivating. If they get you start drinking that cola product at 3, the rest of your life, the other people that sit back watching, like, oh, that means that his blood sugar is likely, his pancreas gonna be pretty beat up.
Yeah.
You know, his pancreas gonna be pretty beat up by the time he's 16. All this sugar, having all this insulin to try to capture the sugar and process it, oh, he's gonna be taxed. Yep.
And also the emotional state of the animals that are slaughtered for consumption. And then there's a big surge of people with mental health issues now. And I think it's directly related to the consumption of these animals.
With the fear hormone.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And see, if you notice, there's 2 religions that I know of that widely prepare their meats in a certain way. And it's the halal, Islam, and it's kosher with Jewish, right? And that's not only how they prepare it, but it's also how they kill the animals. You know, and part of it is supposed to be, you know, a more humane way of doing it to decrease one of the effects of it is to decrease the release of those fear hormones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you're right, those fear hormones from being the meat that you're consuming, then you're gonna have it, and it could. I don't know, I haven't seen any studies on it, but it makes sense to me. You know? One of the greatest barriers, food deserts. People can't access food. You just can't get to it.
And this is one of the #1 food deserts right here. I live here, man. I'm talking about there's nothing. You got Wendy's, that little, whatchamacallit, next to Wendy's, the little chicken spot, and you got McDonald's in Woodline, and that terrible Kroger.
Right. Right on yeah.
The worst Kroger I feel like that's around here is terrible.
Is that the one with Spring?
Yeah, it's right there in Woodline.
Yeah.
There's nothing to eat around here. Nothing.
And see, so the fact that there is a grocery store there would make it not, I mean, if it's within a mile.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's within a mile, the food deserts typically when a person has to go beyond a mile or have to go out of their neighborhood, so that is another neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's not a grocery store in Lincoln Heights.
Not at all.
I tell you, it could be a positive because you don't have all of the access to, because most people in Lincoln Heights walk. So if you don't go down the hill, you don't have access to those fast food restaurants down there. There's only 2 or 3 of them down there.
Well, where do you get fresh produce?
We got a garden up here,
Community garden.
Yeah, we
community
talked about
garden,
garden, yeah.
and they're putting another one, putting more food right here in this yard right here. So, and it's free. They can come in and get it. So I see the positive side of this being a food desert, quote unquote food desert. Plus they have a orchard down, so you got fruits growing on trees, and you got the vegetables growing over here.
Is it enough to really sustain the whole community?
no. It's growing.
It's growing.
And if one of the good things is encouraging people to grow food in their own yards. People
we do what we used to do.
Yes, to do it. I mean, if what you're teaching for this 10-month series of people followed what you're teaching and took this to their own individual yards, this would be a good example of how we can get done what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the food growing. I mean, Avondale is another big food desert. It's like the fourth largest community in Cincinnati. Maybe the number 2 as far as black population, 1 or 2 as far as black population. But I heard stories about how there used to be fruit trees all over there, apples straight off the trees, and you don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And again, so because remember I started off saying that food is an industry now, which makes certain things happen because they're looking to profit. And so if people are growing their own food, like I said, it's for free, then you're cutting out a whole lot of folks. You're cutting out certain levels of taxes. You're cutting out, profit, markups. You're cutting out all this stuff because you're producing your own stuff. You're producing your own food, right? Yeah, but food does it. It's real. If a person has to go down the hill to get the fast food, and they got to go a couple of neighborhoods over to get to a grocery store to get produce and other stuff they might need, then it's a food desert. Because you can't, then if you don't have a car, you said a lot of people walk in this neighborhood, then you might have to take 2 or 3 buses to get there. Or you might have to take one of those expensive ride sharing. But then you got corner stores. You go to the corner store, you got full of what? Processed food. You got potted meat, right? You got spam, you got jerkies, fried chicken, beer, right?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? You got candies, the candy that imitate fruit. You might have apple, orange, and banana on the counter. Those are typically the 3 fruits that you're going to find in the the corner store. You're going to have apple, a banana, and an orange. Other than that, what you get? Processed. Totally processed for the most part, right? That's the food desert. And food deserts come with health issues, right? Because you got a high sodium. A lot of the processed food is very high in sodium, very high in unhealthy fats, right? Very high in salt, sodium, very high in sugars as well. And so now you got a population of people whose main source of food are corner stores, and the corner stores' main product are processed food. So that means that the people are consuming mostly processed food. And we can go back to that slide that was SAD, the Standard American Diet, and it makes sense. Like that's why, and it's what's being promoted. It's what we think we like. And it's, man, if I had a cup of Kool-Aid, and I said, man, this Kool-Aid good, what that mean? What is it about it that made it good? It was sweet, yes. It was sweet. That's my man. This Kool-Aid was good in the mug, man. I like when you make the Kool-Aid. Why? Because you put a whole lot of sugar in there, right? Yeah. So that makes it good. So we get that, our tastes are given to us. We don't like water. Why? Because it ain't bubbly. It don't burn your throat. It don't make your eyes water. And it ain't got a ton of sugar in it. It ain't got a bunch of dyes changing the color of it. Best thing for your body, but we have been conditioned to like certain things, thinking that we actually like it. I know people who have gone 28 days talking about fasting. They've gone 28 days. So let me back up. So Lent, the season of Lent, you're supposed to fast, you give up something for Lent. The way I've understood fasting is that you give up something not to pick it back up. It's a process of eliminating something, right? So if I'm going to fast off of fish, I'll be doing that to either cut back on my fish or to stop consuming fish altogether. If I'm fasting from red meat, it takes 28 days, they say, to create a habit. So you can fast for 28 days, that means that you can go longer than 28 days and not do what it is that you were fasting in the first place, right? So the fasting piece. So I know people who have fasted from drinking, we call it pop up here. Right? Pop, Coke, drinking, Nashville, soda, what you know? Soda. If you fast 28 days from soda, pop, cold drink, right? And when you come back to try to taste it again, it's going to taste totally different to you. You probably won't like it the same because you cleansed your palate. Right? You detoxed your body by not introducing it to yourself anymore. You've taken other things in its place, like maybe real fruit, real teas, right? And now you have a different standard against which to judge how good this pop is for you. You don't like it anymore. Why? Because this juice don't do all that burning and I don't know. When I'm done, I ain't doing all that after I drink some juice. That's your body like telling you, like, yo, get this out of here. It burns. It creates gas. You know what I mean? Now I've been drinking water, juices, teas. I go back and try to drink that. I don't want it no more. Give yourself the opportunity. Most of us have been consuming these things since we were babies and don't know no different. You get babies that were raised, vegan in a semi-healthy type of context. They have to force themselves to be like their peers. They have to taste other stuff and act like they like it most of the time. Their palates are different altogether. Food deserts is a really big issue, and I'm glad to hear that Lincoln Heights has gardens and produced another garden. That's we had food gardens down in Nashville. That's where the garden we was at. Sizway, Earth Matters. It's the George Washington Carver Food Park. It seems to be a revolutionary act now to grow your own food, but it was just the way we did things.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And
God,
we can still do it. Let me keep pushing.
Take your time.
All right, so strategies for eating healthy. So again, we go back to this picture. I brought this picture back up. Because again, it's knowledge. Having information and developing understanding is one of the number one things that we can't do. But again, it's a privileged place to be able to do that.
Yes.
You got to be able to afford the money to get the books. You got to be able to afford the time to sit and read. You know what I mean? That you don't have to be working and grinding and stuff to take care of the people. So you've got the privilege of time now. You can afford the time that it takes to do it, right? In addition to that, you got to be able to afford the food itself, right? And so it's a luxury. But when you begin to shift your mind, I always say this, I always use this example in a whole bunch of presentations. But I think it's so profound. The guy that played Elijah Muhammad in the Malcolm X movie, he says, if you take one step towards Allah, Allah takes 2 steps towards you. And it's the same here. When you take one step towards having a better diet and taking better care of yourself, then yourself takes 2 steps towards you, and it'll become easier. So once you devote yourself to improving your diet, improving your health, improving your overall lifestyle, then all those beneficial things come closer to you as well. And the trade-off is the better you eat, or the better you eat meaning you cut out certain toxic things, then the better you are to pursue better eating. So if I say, I eat 10 bags of chips every day, making this up. So now I'm gonna kick it back to just 8 now. And now, whatever those 2 extra bags used to do to my body, I'm no longer doing to my body. So now I've got resources to pursue what to cut out next. I'm cutting out 3 more. Now I get down to 1 bag of chips a day. Now imagine how much better I would be feeling to do whatever it is that I'm going to be doing next. Right? So you just take whatever that one step is. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it costs a lot. Good thing we got pocket computers now, right? And we got people who do podcasts who do nothing but talk about healthy eating. So just start to immerse yourself in this concept of a healthier lifestyle as much as you possibly can. Instead of riding and turning up the music, put on something, put on a podcast, or listen to somebody talking about healthy lifestyle. Whether you listen to every word or not, it becomes your environment. It becomes what you're consuming now. Right?
Come to the Intergenerational Wellness Workshop.
Come to the Intergenerational Wellness Workshops.
Yeah.
Those of y'all that ain't here. Everybody here is here.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of information. I'll provide this, for the next time. Print it out. But this is a list of everyday foods. Yes, apples, apricots may not be every day, but apricot kernels, though. We're talking about combats cancer. Apricot kernels, they have vitamin B. Which B is it? Maybe B15. I think it's B15. It's really good at battling cancer. The replication of tumor cells. The battle of blood pressure, says eyesight, apples block diarrhea. You know, we're talking about somebody is constipated, but some apples feeding applesauce prevents constipation, it's fiber rich, right? You got all these beets, blueberries, broccoli, look at all this stuff. This is everyday food. There's really the only mystery is that we don't know about it. But in the good book, look to your neighbor and say, neighbor, the good book.
Neighbor, the good book.
It said let your food be your medicine.
It says let your food be your medicine. Amen.
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 All these chili peppers. AIDS digestion, so clear sinuses. You ever ate something spicy and your nose start running?
Yes.
Eyes start watering? Don't accidentally sniff no pepper. And then you're sneezing, you're coughing, you're getting all kind of mucus. You're clearing sinuses, you're clearing your lungs out. Right? Ginger is good for digestion. Yes. Our food is medicine. Real food is. But again, if you don't know, not only if you don't know all the little different bits of information on this page, but if you don't even know that this is the possibility and the purpose of food, you're not even looking at it like that. We eat food sad we eat food because we're going out on a date, right? That's why we eat food. Not because it's nutritive and not because it's cleansing. We're social eaters now. We're emotional eaters now, right? We're marketing and media induced eaters now. When we return to having this knowledge that food is for this, food does all of this, then it's like, oh snap. You trying to tell me that consumption of food is actually a divine process? Yes.
Quick question. Flax, is that the same as like flaxseed?
Yep. It's flax. Yep. Flax
Okay.
seeds.
So it was one. I had an issue with flaxseed, and I think it's like for men, I heard. I don't know for women, but for men, it kills our testosterone.
Flax. Okay, I've never heard that. I'll look into that one. Yeah, I've never heard that before. It's possible. I didn't know that. I know it's good for circulation. It's good for a lot of different things. I'm looking at that. Thanks for that. Yeah, more food. Lemons, mangoes, mushrooms, oats, olive oil, oranges, peaches, peanuts, fried strawberries, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, right? We got all kinds of stuff. This is just everyday food. And how it can be beneficial to your body. I've had so many teachers over the years. I'm trying to remember who taught me what. But one of them pointed out, like, if he had the cure, if he told you that all you had to do was drink one of these bottles of water every day, and if you had cancer, it would be gone. That's not true. It was that if that's, just saying if it was like that, so most people wouldn't do it. So most people wouldn't do it. Somebody told you that all you got to do is eat an apple a day. We heard, an apple a day keeps the dentist away, so-called. Most people would not take that step. And you have to ask yourself, what is it about our psychology? What is it about our conditioning that's going to keep us from doing what we can do to improve our life situation, our overall well-being? Because again, in the better condition that your health is in, the better everything else you're going to touch is going to be. It's just that simple, isn't it?
And I have talked to people who have diabetes and things of that nature, and certain foods, natural foods, that they can't eat because of the medicines that they take. But those same medicines, those same foods, the fruits, the vegetables that will combat the diabetes, their doctors are telling them not to eat them because they're on the medication.
Glad you brought that up, sister. I'll show them it too. Anybody know somebody on blood pressure medicine? And on there it tells you, some of them say, don't take it with grapefruit juice, right? Grapefruit. Lowers cholesterol, right? Helps stop strokes, right? Helps against heart attack. He's dealing with cholesterol and blood pressure all day,
Yes.
right? I know somebody, there's a brother, he was about to pop. He was like, he had numbers was high. He was like, "Man, what can I do? What would you do?" Well, I go to the store to give me some grapefruit juice, 100% grapefruit juice. I eat me a grapefruit today, and I'm drinking that. The medicine say I can't have that. So you know why the medicine say you can't have that? It's because it'll lower your cholesterol. It'll lower your blood pressure, and then you might have too low. It might be hypotensive, right? So it's concerned that the combination of the food and the medicine combining and acting too good. I said, so if I had to choose between one or the other, I'm going with the grapefruit, man. Because the side effect of grapefruit might be that little tingling that you get right here, and a little bitter mouth. But other than that, I don't know of any. But he did it. Again, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not licensed in any of that stuff. I said, he asked me what I would do. And I told him that he took it upon himself to do it. He had a good outcome. They said he was about to die.
Wow.
That's why. I'm glad you brought that up, though, sister. That grapefruit is probably the most accessible example of that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I know of someone who raised their children to be pure vegetarians, never had meat until, I don't know, they probably was a teenager. They was working at a restaurant that sold meat products in it. And that person, because of curiosity, because they'd never had it before, they didn't even know what it was. When they started eating that meat from that restaurant that they worked at, they started having health issues. But it was, so for that person, it was, I don't know if it was peer pressure, I don't know what it was that drew them into that. But I'm telling you, their mother had the process you're taking us through now. Their mother had already went through that, so they didn't have to go through it.
Right.
But so we have to figure out what in our society is pulling even the children and the adults who were trained from childhood not to do it. Who got this information?
It's the peer pressure. I'll go right back to that. Should have put a bunch of these slides in there, so I ain't gotta keep going back to it. That peer pressure is a mug. You know, imagine being a kid that's a vegan all their life, and you in high school, and all you and your friends are going out to eat after the basketball game. And they're like, have you never had one of these big attacks? I ain't never had one. I ain't never had. You tell me you ain't never had McDonald's? Ugh. That's what it ended up being. You ain't never had Chick-fil-A. You ain't never.
Oh, you ain't black.
You ain't never had a fried chicken. You know, and it's like that's real peer pressure. But you're like, yeah, I had that, man. Give me two of them. They're over there, doubled up. You know, I ain't never had it before. But yeah, it's peer pressure, right? And so the vegan kids that I know that have been vegan all their life, when I tell them, you hit them back like, ugh, you ain't never had Indian food? Ugh. You ain't never had Thai food? You tell them you ain't never ate Ethiopian food? Ugh, what's wrong with y'all? Hit them back with that.
Yeah.
Because anytime somebody say, man, you ain't know that? It's something that they ain't know either.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, you ain't never did that? It's something that they ain't never did either. And I tell them, if you wanna put the two diets side by side, when they start having heart attacks and cancers and stuff like that, the doctor gonna tell them to subscribe to your diet. The doctor gonna tell them to cut out the meat and start doing what you already doing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so you got the advantage because you started here where the doctors are gonna send them to. And the doctors are gonna send them there because your diet is better. But we gotta have enough of us adults that support them in that way and give them tips like, all right, so here's what you do. You know, when you go to a restaurant like that, just order your food, you know, you ain't got to have, matter of fact, they talk about going to one of the fast food joints, you suggest something else that you know that costs about the same, because you got a different variety of food there that you know that you eat.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids have to become leaders.
Right.
Right? And when they're leaders, they're not succumbing to the peer pressure of their peers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why would you follow somebody that's trying to take you in there to eat?
Mm-hmm.
When that's full of poison? And you know it is. That already lets you know automatically that that's not a person for you to be trying to impress.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to follow that person because they already showing they don't know enough. No slight at all. It could be your best roadie, that could be your mama, it could be your cousin in them, it could be whoever it is. But you know better, you know better. So now you have to act like you know better. Because the influence can go both ways. It just so happened that we succumb trying to fit in.
Right.
As opposed to standing your ground and they're watching you like, let me go ahead and start, you know, I don't smoke blunts no more. Why? Because I heard that blunts, you know what I mean? They'll move. Now they only papers. Now it's only rice papers. Now it's only hemp papers. Now it ain't at all. You know, the direction can go either way. The influence can go either way. We just got to strengthen our children with enough support to where they stand on what they know better. Yep.
Will we do that? Can we do that in this program? That each week, each month that we come here, or even during the whole 10 months, send out messages, because we got the intergenerational wellness, so send out those messages to the adults and the children, maybe a separate message to the children that, look, did you eat some Indian food this week? You know, this is how you make that Indian food if you don't have the money to go to the restaurant to get it. And you know, then we can encourage that through our healthy eating, healthy cooking menu. In other words, let's make this a movement.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. The purpose of these workshops in this notebook, we have pages for notes. We have documents in here to help support what you're learning, and with the children and the elders, us, we should first of all try to create an atmosphere and a relationship to encourage each other, the youth and the seniors, to eat better. So that's the purpose of all of having the kids and the older people in the same room together.
And I think, like, you know, it's about the self-destruction. Like, you know, our people, for some reason, our culture, the youth culture, like the black culture, black people, we glamorize everything as self-destructive. You know what I'm saying? If you speak on being self-productive and bettering yourself, you know, we ain't trying to hear that. And it goes with the food. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, we should want to get healthy and eat. Oh man, fuck that. Man, I want excuse my language. Like, what's chicken wings at? It's self-destruction. You know what I'm saying? We got to find a way to combat that and let them know that it's okay to be self-productive.
It's cool. I gotta make it cool. The fortunate thing is that now there are a lot of hip hop artists that are openly stating that they're not only vegan, but that they're juicing and they're trying to be healthy in their diet, like Styles P. You know, they've got a juice bar up there in Harlem, if I'm not mistaken. So it's slowly but surely coming around. We definitely have to make it a positive experience for the kids and something that's empowering them. And I mean, part of the trick though is that because they're kids, they're already energetic, so they already feel good because they're naturally kids right now. But if they shifted their diet, they would feel better. And I know one way that we can do it with our children is through athletics. You know, show them that this is an athlete's diet. You know, the athlete's got to pay attention to their nutrition and the cleansing aspect of their food, right? Nutritive and cleansing. Why? Because you don't want to be toxic on the football field. You know, your bones break easier, you pull muscles, and then you put it in that context, like, oh snap, you know, this is the food of the gods, right? This is how the people that's going to really, really be, you know, going in the pros. You start eating like this now, you'll be better off later. You attach it to whatever it is that they're already in the direction of, whatever direction they're already going in, and make it cool. Say, oh no, all your friends, they probably eating some trash anyway. That's why you can run fast. That's why you can run long. That's why you're gonna be strong. Keep doing this. You know, you're just attached to something that they're already enjoying. Yes.
I just wanted to add something, and this is probably more of a negative aspect attached to what the young man over here said. There was a crock pot meal program they were giving the children, after school program. They were giving the crock pot, the vegetables, the spices, everything. All they had to do was put them in the crock pot, turn it on. This is a black community. The adults discouraged it. And the household, the adults discouraged it. I'm running that right now with other kids, and it's a battle. It's a battle just the household. No, you can't do that because you might burn something. I mean, we're gone.
Part of that is judgment. People feel judgment.
Okay.
You know, so if the kids are doing something and it's labeled as a healthy lifestyle, a healthy diet, then it's like, what is this other stuff? Just like with the supermarket, healthy food section. And what's the rest of this food? So you come in here thinking that you're about to be cooking some healthy food, like I ain't been feeding you all this time. It's like,
there it is, right there.
Judgment. You know, we raise even stuff. All of a sudden, it ain't no good for you, right? And so it's all kind of judgment, and it's a defensiveness that has to happen. I mean, it's natural. It's a natural defensiveness because if you telling me that this is healthy, then what you saying about what we've been doing? And you know, we've been eating top ramen noodles all this time because that's what we could afford. So now all of a sudden, some program gonna come through here, you know, giving y'all free food, and now you all of a sudden my food ain't good enough. It's all this stuff that can happen. You know, but it's a natural defensiveness, and so those of us that's on the side of trying to get people to do better, you know, we have to be better at persevering through that and figuring out how do we bring everybody in, right? You know, so now it ain't us giving it to the kids to bring it into the house. We giving it to the adults to bring it in the house and give it to the kids. Because what we've done is we've overstepped, right?
Right.
And I know the kids got permission and all that stuff, but you know, we're going this way, we should be going here,
Right.
to get to the kids through the adults. Because otherwise, the person who calls the shots in the house can shut that down when they're ready to.
Right.
So you get with the shot caller to
Okay.
implement what you're trying to implement. Real quick, we're about done. So I'll give y'all a copy of both of those lists. It'll be in the binder for the next time.
Okay.
The list, and then here's another list of foods, and this is a really good way to like start to introduce healthier items into your diet. It's already broken down by the days of the week, and there's a reason why each one of these days has the foods that it has underneath, and it has to do with the energies of the day, right? So the first day of the week is Sunday, right? What heavenly body does that correlate with?
Corn and milk.
No, heavenly body.
Oh, heavenly body.
Sunday.
You know, Sunday.
Sun.
The sun.
Yeah.
Right, so it's the sun's day.
Oh, yeah.
Monday, what heavenly
Moon.
body? Yeah, the moon, so that's moon day for real. And then you got Tuesday, you have to go into
Mars.
Martes, right?
Right.
Yeah, Martes. And then,
Miraculous.
huh?
Oh, I'm
You-
sorry.
you
I'm saying
Spanish
the
not
same.
good. Come on with it.
Yeah, Miraculous.
Which is?
Which is
Which planet?
Mercury. Yeah. Thursday is Jueves. The Jupiter.
Yep.
The Jupiter.
Jupiter,
Friday.
Venus.
Venus.
Yep.
And then Saturday, Saturn.
It's Saturn's day.
Yeah.
Plain sight. Been like that since any of us know the days of the week, right? Direct correlation. Now, each one of those heavenly bodies, I didn't make up none of this, right? I didn't make up these days of the week, not at all. I got them just like y'all did. I was just taught differently. Like, oh snap! It is the sun. It is the moon. I'll be dang. It is Saturn, right? And then you got to switch the languages for those, but you still see it, right? It's easy to see it. So anyway, each one of those planets has a particular energy to it. So the sun is hot and dry, right?
Right.
Very hot. So then you got hot, spicy foods here. You know, you got foods that are stimulating hot, temperature rising. It's hard. I won't be able to thoroughly explain it in this context. Just rest assured that each one of these days represents planetary, heavenly body, which then carries a particular type of energy. It impacts a certain system in your body. Right? So these foods also focus on those particular systems of the body. So for example, Sunday is your circulatory system. Heart, vein, arteries, capillaries, stuff like that. Moon day is the digestive and reproductive system. Tuesday is your immune system. You know, it's very hot as well. Wednesday is going to be your nervous system. Right? Thursday is going to be like your liver and your lungs. Friday is going to be your sex and reproductive organs. Saturday is going to be your bone and connective tissues. Right? Some slogans like Saturn. So each one of these days has a listing of food. And I got this from Sarah Set Society, which is an African-centered organization I was part of back in D.C. I did a lot of spiritual initiations with them. But this is how we ate daily. You know, and you don't have to have everything. So when I was first getting started, I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pick at least one thing for this day, and I'm gonna make sure that I have it today. So for Sunday, I just get an apple. Get a red apple, make sure I ate an apple on Sunday. As I was first getting started. And then it got to the point to where my whole meal on the Sunday is gonna consist of only these things. Tuesday is Monday, only these things, you know, only things from that list. And when I start off, I know it's Monday, make sure I get me some watermelon from somewhere. Even if it means I just in the grocery store, I see people cut up watermelon in a little bowl, I just get one of them, and I'm satisfied on Monday, right? And that was a way for me to start to think about food more consciously, more intentionally, and then doing things that are more beneficial to me in line with how the day has already flown. Very easy way to get started, relatively easy way to get started. But I'll provide this list for y'all as well. But we've got more knowledge and information and resources than we know that we do. We just gotta get out of our own way, and we got to recognize that there is something that is working against us freeing up and being more healthy.
Amen.
Like you said earlier, bro. You know, there's a whole industry out there that wants you, that needs you to be sick because its existence requires you to be sick. Because if you weren't sick, they don't have any business to conduct. Right? And so you have to understand that and not necessarily fight that industry as much as you are building yourself and taking care of yourself to make sure you're less susceptible and that you don't have to go see them folks. You know, or if you do see them, you minimize your need to see them folks as much as possible.
That's why they killed Dr. Sebi. It was healing people. It was really healing people.
Yeah. And it's interesting how Dr. Sebi, you know, they say he died from pneumonia, like sitting in a damp cell, jail cell. You know, that was the other thing. I provided electric recipe book too. I have one of those on one of my tabs, but I got one of those too as well.
That's the name of the garden up there.
What's that?
Dr. Sabi.
It's a Dr. Sebi garden? Y'all setting it off. All right, so that's going to conclude the formal part of the presentation. I hope y'all, was able to gain something from it.
Oh, sure.
Hope I didn't stray too far. You know what I mean? A little tangent could be something.
You were straight far enough.
Yeah, right. So not far enough. But I know for next time too. Y'all sure was putting it together. I know, keep it contained. But I will provide those documents, this food chart for you, and then these lists here. I'll provide these as well. Right?
If you can email it to me, Doc, I can have it printed and the next workshop,
Okay.
they put them in the folder.
Okay.
Is every workshop gonna be speaking on the food and the healthiness of the food, or are you gonna be going through different segments?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, because I've been to a couple of your workshops. I remember in Nashville at Fitz, you had one. Well, by Fitz, and you were just talking about the music industry. And
Right. Hip hop, psychology, hip hop. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're actually in that video.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it stuck with me.
Right. No, so this is actually, we got a bunch of different topics. So we'll be dealing with meditation, and one of them, Qigong and yoga, and another one. What else we got? So we got meditation, Qigong, and yoga coming up. This is the only food related one other than the garden. I'm not doing the garden.
This one is healthy food today. December 10th is mindfulness and meditation. January 14th is yoga and Qigong. February is Tai Chi and Qigong. I'm sorry. February is Tai Chi and Qigong.
Okay.
March.
January is just yoga.
Yes.
Okay.
January is just yoga. March is chiropractic wellness. April is gardening. May is acupuncture. June is massage therapy. July is music therapy.
Okay.
And then August will be the completion of everything.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll be on the way to more better wellness.
Right. So I'm doing the yoga one, the meditation one, which is next. Meditation and yoga in January, Qigong and Tai Chi February. And then I'll be doing the art music therapy that last.
Okay.
So we're gonna go deep in all of that. You know, so with the meditation, we're gonna start focusing on breathing, learning about breathing, visualization, all the different components of meditation. With the yoga piece, we're gonna talk about this body system, and how different postures, and how you can move your body differently. Combining meditation stuff with it. Qigong and the Tai Chi joint, we're gonna actually be doing it. We're showing y'all different processes and stuff like that for different organs. We're gonna get it in. We're gonna get it in.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I appreciate y'all though. Thanks a lot for
Appreciate you.
Very educational.
It's very
Yes.
educational.
Excellent. So if everybody would give Miss Dr. Lindsay a hand. Thank you so much.
You back in Cincinnati? Partially. Okay, I know you on the move.
you know, move you up.
Yeah, I understand.
We passed out a survey, and this presentation was made possible by the United Way. So please fill out the survey. Fill out the documents in front of the binder. So we have to keep the data. So everybody, did you enjoy the workshop?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
You know I'm hype. I'm Tito hype.
I'm glad you all came, and I believe
very
that
knowledgeable.
people who were here were supposed to be here because we had 15 people registered, and they didn't show up. But so
It's a building process.
one,
You know, we got to go back and, spread it to the people. It's a building
Yeah.
process.
so thank you all for coming. There's lunch on the back, in the back. Take some.